I remember the first time my mom walked me down to the election booth that she was going to vote. And she was so proud, and she told me all about how women had struggled and fought to get their vote and all these things.
So your obligation to actually use it.
Yes, and she was so proud. She was in tears that she could vote, and, you know, teaching her daughter the electoral process and stuff. So yeah, I was brought up with that stuff too. I'm familiar with it. One of the things you have to understand, darling, is that kings and queens were also slaves to the system. There was a power behind them that chose them and put them in that throne. For the whole process to be legal, they need a minimum amount of voters to vote in a country.
To have a mandate, in a sense.
No, to have
a legal
authority. Yeah, they need a minimum amount of people to vote, to engage in that process. And if they don't have that percentage, then the whole thing is illegal.
Welcome
to another episode
of Driving to the Res
with your favorite hosts,
Barry
and Inelia.
And
Baby?
I can hear a dog. I can hear another dog. We dumped some roosters off at the Shaman Shack, and then we came down the Shaman Shack to record.
So we probably got roosters.
We'll see if the roosters show back up.
Very high chance.
There's a not zero chance the roosters will engage again.
And Siri's going nuts right now too.
Siri's gone nuts too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is one of those nuts podcasts. Nuts because it's about elections. And elections have probably already happened. Siri, really? You want to listen?
Yeah, she's listening. That's her listening.
Yeah, I can hear her.
Yeah. Go away, Siri. Yeah, so...
So this is the mystical and energetic consequences of elections, which I was born and raised with.
You thought it was the best thing ever, didn't you?
It's what makes our country special.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
My parents used to believe the same thing. I remember the first time my mom walked me down to the election booth that she was going to vote. And she was so proud, and she told me all about how women had struggled and fought to get their vote and all these things.
So your obligation to actually use it.
Yes, and she was so proud. She was in tears that she could vote, and, you know, teaching her daughter the electoral process and stuff. So yeah, I was brought up with that stuff too. I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, and you know, it sounds like one of those, well, what's the alternative? You know, we used to have things like kings or chiefs or whatevers, and how were they picked? And I mean, you had to be born by God. God had to pick you.
Or you could kill the king and become king yourself.
Well, then God picked you because you killed the king, and the king, you were let to kill the king because God let you.
Yeah, but that's what we're told.
Yeah,
we don't actually know if any of that happened.
True, but it's part of our fable,
yes. Part
of our story tell.
Yes.
Yeah. And it sounds good, and it makes a good story.
It does make a good story.
So there was these, it's let's just say it's complicated. So no matter how we talk about this, you're going to have some charge about it, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like some people can go to the best baseball game and then they play the national anthem and they can just sit there. Mm-hmm. And not stand up when the whole rest of the world's standing up next to you.
He's talking about me.
Yeah. Some people can do that without any compunction, no feeling of anything whatsoever. Or maybe I don't know what you feel, honestly.
Well, it's like sometimes it's really funny because the flag will be behind us, so everybody turns towards me.
And starts looking at you.
Yeah, and they look at me, and some people are like, their eyes are hate. And other people try to not giggle and laugh, you know? So, and some people sit back down. I saw a couple of people sit back down the last time that happened. They look at me and then smile and sit back down.
It's not easy. Let me just say, if you ever want to go to a football game, basketball game, baseball game, any of those things, just don't bring her.
Okay. Don't bring me.
So it's either that or don't go. So we'll just skip going, I think. It's so uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable. It's a mystical and energetic ritual.
Right.
Ingrained into people all over the world to be respondent to a symbol
Yes.
and an authority that's outside of themselves, called a flag or called the government.
Pledge allegiance, all that. Yes.
Yeah. So they're brought up this way from kindergarten. So it's really hard to step out of it.
Right. And there's plenty around you who make it even harder. Mm-hmm. And that's all the people standing there looking at you.
Yeah.
With this, fingers in there. Daggers. If you don't like it here, then leave. Oh, who knows, whatever else. So there are mystical and energetic consequences for voting in an election.
Yes.
Also.
Very big ones, too. These are massive. Massive.
So this is coming out, sometime after the presidential election that has gone on. Mm-hmm. There's supposed to be all manner of excitement around it, right? Allegedly there is or was or has been or will have been, or I don't know. What do you think?
I know that a lot of our listeners have chosen and picked their side on the elections. And I'm here to tell you that all the sides are the same.
No, they're not.
They are the same.
They're not the same.
They're the same.
No, they're different flavors of the same, honey.
They're not even a different flavor as far as I'm concerned.
There's sprinkles on the top that are different.
They're just to attract and divide, right?
Yeah, so they have to be a little bit different so that you can pick one. Otherwise, you wouldn't pick the other. You're just whichever one.
You're told they're different and they have different flavors, but actually, behind the scenes, they're not.
It's like telenovela with different actors. Yes. Which actor in the telenovela do you not like? Exactly. And which one do you like?
Yeah.
I mean, we can say that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So they're different, even though they're the same telenovela.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Yes.
But what are the consequences of doing it? I mean, so what? You picked the one that you like the best, and you won. Or you picked the one you liked the best and you lost. I mean, why is there any consequence? So what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's go into it.
I have made no secret of my opinions around the democratic process. Most Western countries have adopted to govern over the people in those countries. Right? So here's the thing. They tell you that they will govern for you when in fact you're choosing the people to govern over you. Okay? Oops, sorry. So that's the first step. That's the first thing to listen to here. Okay?
Say it again because you kind of mumbled it.
I have made no secret of my opinions around the quote, democratic process, unquote. Most Western countries have adopted to govern over the people in those countries. Right? That most people, maybe that would make it clearer for you. That most Western countries have adopted to govern over their people.
Okay.
So here's the first thing, right? And if you miss that bit, you probably won't get the rest. It might seem like a very small paragraph and not very important, but it is a process that was adopted by most Western countries to govern over their people.
Not with.
Not for the people.
Over
the people. So earlier you mentioned something about kings and queens and whatevers and governing that way. This is worse.
Can't figure out how. Let's
talk a little bit more about it.
Okay.
What the population are told and think is true is that every few years they go to a location, take the person or people they want to represent them in the government, after which all of those pieces of paper are counted and whomever got the most amount of ticks gets to be president, vice president, and gets to choose a cabinet to govern with him or her.
Yeah, you go vote. The most votes kind of sort of wins, but then we were trained here in the US, it's a little different too.
Some people in the USA think that the winner of the popular vote, the person or persons who received the most ticks, is not necessarily the person who becomes president.
Which is right, yeah, because it's Electoral College.
Yeah. That is a group of people who call themselves Electoral College who, regardless of who the people voted for, decide who the next president is.
Yeah, that's the part that we get told, is that the Electoral College actually selects the president, but when you vote, whoever you vote for, the majority of your votes goes to the Electoral College is supposed to pick who you pick, but they don't have to. And there's a little bit of wishy-washiness in there. We're not well, that seems a little bit fishy, but okay.
Yeah,
It
so most
mostly
people,
works.
most people think that, right?
Yeah,
So
it's a little
some
bit
people
fishy.
do think that
some uncertainty in
whomever
there.
gets the most ticks becomes president.
Right.
And some people understand that that's not true, that actually the Electoral College is the ones that decide who's going to be the president.
Yeah, but how is it working like England? Do they have elections like that?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same model. They do. The prime minister is, I think,
Prime Minister is the president,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. And then in England,
Do they
it's
have
slightly
Electoral
different
College?
because I don't remember.
Don't they have to like have a majority, or they get a majority, or they like the prime minister
I
is
don't
selected by
remember.
the
I don't
cabinet?
exactly
I mean,
remember. So something like no, they elect their cabinet, but it's actually they don't become prime minister until the king or queen names them to be their prime minister.
based on a certain number of coalition. They have to put together a coalition of party members and have a majority of the party. And then they're the...
You can
there's some...
You can actually have a president, prime minister, who doesn't have the majority votes in the cabinet or whatever, and then they can't get anything done.
Oh, okay.
And you can also have an elected prime minister by the people, and then the king or queen decides, I don't like you, and doesn't make them prime minister. Right? So
well, they had that here. It's like the president said the vote was false, so the vice president wasn't supposed to make the new president the president, but he did it anyway, or something like that.
So basically, apparently, for known history, the king or queens have never done that, have never chosen somebody else. But they can. They have the power to do so. Okay.
So anyway,
that's what I learned, and I don't really remember very well. So I might actually be wrong about the British system.
Either way, the system is a little bit fuzzy.
And it doesn't really matter.
What?
It doesn't actually matter.
What?
I'm here to tell you that none of that is actually true.
Just seems to be true.
The entire process from beginning to end is a long tale of dramatic lies to keep the population engaged, distracted, and divided. But mostly, it is a method or a weapon of control. This process of control has been carried out in various ways through history. Whether it's a warlord, a pope, a king, or a chief, it all culminates in the concentration of many individuals' power into one being, one person, or one group of being. The basic drive for the accumulation and authority to wield power over others is never, by definition, a trait of a light worker.
Right, there's not many light workers who want to have, give me all your power, everyone.
Mm-hmm. The ability to wield and focus your own power, however, is.
Yeah, many light workers are attracted to that.
I talk a lot about the giving away of power and how we must not do this at any time, for any reason. Anyone who wants to take your power, for whatever reason, is not doing this for your best interest. Do you want to take away the power from other people yourself?
Do I want to take other people's power?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like this one, that slippery slope of take power away from the people who are trying to, abuse me. Yeah, sure.
You do want to take their power, not just your power back from them?
Well, if I've given them my power, I definitely want to take it back.
Yeah, but what about their power?
Well, if they're using other people's power all over me.
What about their power? Do you want to take their power?
Not to do a thing that I want to do, but, you could see how I possibly want to stop them from doing something that I don't like. But even then, if they're doing things that I don't like, I might think it, feel it, gosh, I wish I could just make them stop. But then at the same time, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
I'm thinking the answer is no.
The answer is no.
And do you know why you don't want to go out of your way to take other people's power away from them? Do you know this?
Just because I don't know why.
I would say because you instinctively know it is a negative thing to do.
Yes, that's probably true.
Therefore, don't give away your power to others. This is also a negative thing because then that other person or organization can use your power for negative ends. Going to war in your name, for example.
Yeah, see, that's where I want to take their power away, so they have to stop doing that.
No, but you just take your power back and they can't do it in your name.
Ta-da! Okay. Well, that's a start.
Giving away your power can mean the giving away of your chi, your sovereignty, control, our right to choose, how to live our lives, where to live our lives, and what to do with our lives. When you actively and physically declare that you elect another person to represent you in life, you're mystically, energetically, and physically giving your power away to another person and or his or her representatives.
Yeah, we kind of understand that, but we're like hoping that person that we've selected will do things that are good for us and help us and stop the bad people from doing things against us. Make gas cheaper.
In the case of a democratic process, you give your power to the people who are ultimately placed in the presidency through the process you chose to participate in by voting.
Right.
Voting for your choice also implies consent to another's choice should your choice lose.
That is true because,
however you look at it, you vote to give your power away to another.
It's a guaranteed you gave your power away.
Yes, no matter who wins.
No matter who wins.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like who wins, you still gave your power away to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit of a catch-22, which is why all of them seem to go, I don't know if you've noticed, but every single one of them says, everyone, go vote. You gotta go vote. That's even all of them say it. They universally say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, that's all you means everyone who's voting has agreed to and consented implicitly to.
Yes.
This system gets to decide for me everything.
Yes.
I get it.
They have control of your life, not only in the aspects of life we might think of, like where your tax dollars go, who you go to war with, or where you're allowed to live, but aspects of life guarded behind official secrets, such as the large agreements about human life on Earth.
Yeah, the things they don't tell you about.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to have a say in how many trees are cut or allowed to live around your home? Do you want to have a say on whether you're allowed to know if aliens exist?
Sure.
Or whether nuclear missiles are used on Earth?
Yes, I do.
Well, don't vote.
What am I going to do then? Because
if you vote, you give your power of your say to another person and his or her representatives.
And they're allowed to lie.
Mm-hmm.
And they often do.
Yes.
Because they pretty much win by telling you what you want to hear.
Exactly.
If they can tell you what you want to hear better than somebody else, then you vote for them.
Yeah.
But since there's so many different people, you got to say a bunch of different things to a bunch of different people, and you pretty much get everyone to agree at one point or another.
Yes.
And then it's the same as sitting down in the national anthem. They don't care who you vote for, as long as you vote.
Exactly. They just care that you vote.
They even say that. I've heard them say that. It's like, I don't care who you vote for, just get out and vote.
Yes.
You just got to be a part of the process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your vote is there to make sure you're giving away your power. Who gets elected has nothing to do with it. You literally have no say in who is president, nor what is done by the said president in your name. Whether local elections or national elections, the moment you physically or digitally tick that piece of paper, you become powerless to rule your life and you give another person the power to make decisions for you.
That seems like was that Faustian bargain of some sort? Is that the right word?
I don't know.
It's not a good bargain.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
You've made an agreement and you think it's to help you, but it's not.
Mm-hmm. The amount of years a person and their cabinet is allowed to stay in power is limited because your energy signature changes through time. After a while, you need to make a new agreement because the one you signed a few years ago no longer reflects who you are today.
You're right. That is the point, because we don't it's like, go vote now, and that vote matters for the rest of your life. It's like, you got to vote every time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And continuously, you have to continuously give your consent for this.
Yes.
So, that should give you a little bit of a sigh of relief. If you haven't voted for a while, you probably have withdrawn your consent just by time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Now, the signing of a piece of paper in order to give your power away at regular intervals is not the only reason they have a democratic process.
Mm-hmm.
Another reason is to divide and conquer.
Oh my God, that is the truth, isn't it? Because I don't know if you've noticed or not, but the more incendiary a person is, the better, it seems like.
Yes.
It's like,
yes.
If you don't care about the person who's running against you or the one that's opponent to your choice, if you don't care about any of them, it's like, it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work.
But if you care a lot, if you really, really care, if it's like, if you don't vote for XYZ, that's the end of everything. I've heard that rhetoric continuously from very big names like, Elon Musk. If you don't, you have to vote for Trump in this election or else it's the end of the world. Yeah. And there will never be another election ever. It's like quite serious.
To divide and conquer does not mean that a team is separated to gain more ground. I heard a person say, let's divide and conquer when we were looking for a lost object. What they meant was to separate and look in different rooms in the house, and we would get it done faster and more efficiently.
Yeah, that's not what it means.
No. Divide and conquer is the art of making the population fight among themselves so they don't turn around and fight against the rulers. An election process is a big fat lie and a big fat telenovela to keep people divided and also highly entertained. It is obviously tempting to engage in the process, to have an opinion despite knowing it may well be lies and half-truths. The tendency to go along with the best worst choice because the worst choice is, well, worse. Don't fall for it.
But.
But.
It might be the last chance to ever vote. It could be.
People think that one group of people will rule and do things differently to another group of people.
It does seem that way. I mean, although, we did watch that one show. What's the one? Freakonomics, I think.
Yeah.
And they did, okay, it says if the president is XYZ, then the gas price goes up or down. Depends on Democrat or Republican or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or when they get elected, it changes the gas price and things like that. And, it's oftentimes we'll say, like, this president had low prices of gas. That's what we want. And this one, gas prices are terrible. We hate that one. But it turned out in the economic thingy, when he looked at it, it didn't actually correlate. But it sure does seem like it. So, I mean,
people think that one group of people will rule to do things different to another group of people, but the truth is that the people who actually rule the country and the planet already have an agenda of what's going to be done. Whomever sits on the throne is irrelevant.
Well, maybe more like good orchestrators for the play to come.
There is
like
no difference
actors.
between candidates or ultimately presidents or prime ministers.
They look different. Some are bigger, some are smaller, some are men, some are women.
They are just actors in a telenovela.
They say different things.
The telenovela must engage and entertain to be believable. Okay. And so the actors who engage the majority the most viscerally, have the biggest impact emotionally, those are the ones who rise to be used. You
know what I've noticed, actually?
What did you notice?
That it seems like more than usual, the elections are super exactly like half and halves.
What do you mean by half and halves? Half
like 50.1% versus 49.9% or something like that. It's like they're very, very, very close. Like, remember when
the amount of votes, you mean?
The amount, how close the elections are. They're like super.
What does that mean? The amount of votes?
Yeah.
Okay. Like the popular vote?
Well, yeah, like the popular vote. Well, even it doesn't matter. Let's say the one I remember the most is the one in Florida. Uh-huh. I mean, Bush and Gore. Remember Al Gore?
Al Gore, yeah.
Right.
And he got the popular vote, didn't he?
No. What happened was they got all the way to the end, and there was a certain state that if whoever won that state had enough electoral votes to win, oopsie.
Okay.
And whoever lost that didn't. So that's how close they were. They were really, really close to the very, very end. Uh-huh. And then it came down to hanging chads in one county, Maricopa County, I think is where it was. So they were counting these ticks, and the ticks had this. If it has a hanging chad, then it doesn't count, or does it count? That was like, got to go to court to decide if the paper thing isn't completely ripped off. Does it still count or not? Who's it for? And at the end, it was something like 300 votes or 100 votes decided who gets to be president in one county in Florida. Uh-huh. But the court decided, and the court was run by one of Bush's brothers. So he won. Yes. So it's like that kind of closeness, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it seems like the orchestrators like to have half of the people really upset.
Yes.
Or at least as the most people upset as possible in whatever the election answer is.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, they say the things that you want to hear.
Yes.
But mostly to the things those who actually rule the country dictate.
Right. You did have a story about that one time with President Obama, remember? He was being told to do something and he didn't want to because he didn't want to sully his...
We don't know his reasons for not wanting to.
Okay, well, do you want to tell that story? Maybe in the second hour?
Yeah, let's talk about it in the second hour.
All right. That's a good second hour story. Because that's pretty saucy.
Very saucy, yes.
It's very, you got to be a fly on the wall sitting in the room to know what the hell's going on in that room.
Yes.
So,
we have some insider information of what happened.
Yes, and that was a major one. And that the funny thing about that bit of data, it reminds me of the movie that he ended up making.
Yes, that movie is pretty interesting. There's parts of it I still can't figure out what he was trying to say, but the majority of that movie was very clear and what, he was telling the people. And part of the engagement of the planet is like you need to tell the people what's going on and what you're doing. So you could say, he did a reveal, but that's not necessarily a positive thing.
No, that's not necessarily a positive thing.
No.
That's
And you have to understand also, Larry once said, Larry, you once said, that to even go into the political process, to even want to become president, you have to have a certain psychotic personality, right? So you're not actually a good person. It doesn't actually mean that there's a good person that's, standing up to be president or be elected for mayor or whatever. There's a certain psychosis behind wanting to have or wield that power. Because it is a power over other system. I remember you talked about that. And having been brought up by two politicians and high-level politicians, like we're talking about cabinet members, and I could see it. I saw it in my daily life. The corruption and the energies and the egoic kind of rides that these people will get. I'm not just talking about my parents, but the other politicians also, and the president at the time. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it is that, and at the same time you pretend like it's not.
What is that?
It's the crookedest, crummiest, nastiest, whatever. People are involved in the slimiest purposes and reasons and doing the most perverted stuff and all to get more power and things like that. That goes on. But the fairy tale that you have is, are really trying to make the country better and help everyone. And, it's like the want to believe that truth more than the truth. So it's a voluntary fantasy in a way.
It is a voluntary fantasy, and I'm qualifying my next statement by what I just said, okay? So basically, I like Obama, even though he's not a good person. But I would never vote for him or anybody else. I would never, in 1,000 years, give my power away to him. But, yeah, so... And there's been an acknowledgement of messages received, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like from him. So in a physical way. So basically, it's like this. The reason I like him is because I don't know about the other presidents. I haven't really paid much attention to them, but I became aware of a situation where he said no to this system for one incident where he was supposed to say yes. And he said no, he just couldn't. There was a line he couldn't cross. And he gave away a lot of power to be able to
say no.
Because like all these people who are in those situations, like being presidents or being in that game, they're not powerful, actually. They are pretty much slaves themselves to the system that they signed up for, but enslaved in a way of, making a deal with the devil type thing, right? That type of enslavement is voluntary. They know what they're doing, and they say yes because they want the benefits or the fame or the alleged power or the je ne sais quoi that involves having millions of people behind you and
when you go for a ride to Safeway, you have like 40 cop cars in front of you and 40 cop cars behind you, and the entire Safeway is cleared of any possible threats. Yeah. That's like, some people think that's pretty cool.
Unless you're Trump. You don't get any.
Oops.
And people shoot you from left, right, and center. Yeah. So anyways, I'm just messing about here, but I just wanted to qualify who these people are, to say, yeah, Obama is one of these people, but I actually like him. And how can you and I would never vote for him in a million years. So how do you qualify that, right? So how do you
reconcile?
Reconcile, sorry, not qualify. How do you reconcile after the qualification of he's an evil person, but I like him? So what do you think about that?
He's not the worst.
It's not even that.
No, it's like he said no once.
Yes.
Good job. Hey, I'm proud of you.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm proud of you. Well done
Well
for doing
done.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very proud of you. Yeah. And allegedly it mattered that I said that. So after that, he had to say yes to a lot of stuff that was very evil.
Yes, indeed. I've noticed.
Yeah. Okay, so where were we here?
There's no difference between candidates or ultimately presidents or prime ministers. They're actors in the telenovela. Mm-hmm. Although some of them are better actors than others, I gotta say it.
Yeah, they're. But it doesn't really actually matter. They say things that you want to hear, but mostly do the things who actually rule the things.
Yeah, I can think of
dictate.
Think of a specific examples in each one who's said something like completely different than what they actually ended up doing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so sure, one flavor has cheap gas, but another flavor saves the environment, and another will pay your debts. Well, another will take care of the weak. Many of the flavors are designed to appeal to the light worker in you, but they're all simply levers to engage you and accept the voluntary giving away of your power.
Yes. Good levers. Some of them are good levers.
Yeah, so I noticed that there was a lot of light workers that I considered to be highly intelligent and like my mates, my friends. And when these elections come around, they just go nuts.
Nuts. Totally
they go
nuts.
into one person and they're the business. Everybody has to vote for them and they really fall for it. And I talk to them and say, hey, this is a trap, It's like, don't do it. Don't fall for it. And they just ignore me or block me or whatever, Mm-hmm. I've seen it over and over again. It's just insane how that happens.
I think maybe that's its purpose, right? It's good.
Yeah.
Some of the best bait. I mean, how was it when there were kings and queens, I wonder?
Well, the thing is, you have to understand that
Although there still are kings and queens.
One of the things you have to understand, darling, is that kings and queens were also slaves to the system. There was a power behind them that chose them and put them in that throne, okay? But it wasn't a popular vote, okay? So here's the thing. Because the population hadn't agreed to what the kings and queens were doing, they had to change the system. Because more often than not, the population got pissed off and killed a whole lot of them over and over again. So that's why they had to change the system from kings and queens to a so-called electorate system, yeah.
Because, you can't get mad at the thing that you've elected.
Right.
You're the one who picked it. If you want to change it, then change your vote.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's
not
the thing,
go kill
right?
the king.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
get it.
Yeah. Plus, they couldn't speak for the people. Right? The king or the queen could not speak for the people. So if there's a decision that needed to be made for the people, and they said, yeah, I'll sign for the people, that didn't carry any weight. It wasn't a real decision.
More like subjects instead of the people.
Yeah. Ownership over the people, yeah. And without the people consenting, it was an empty ownership. It wasn't real.
Well, they kind of consented through the church,
it didn't carry that weight.
Didn't God pick the queen?
The mystical and energetic energy wasn't behind it.
Right.
And that's why the church, for example, insists on signing up people when they're first born. They call the baptism, right?
That's the vote.
That's the vote.
That's
because
the
the parents have power over who the child votes because they have full power over that child.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, they get them while they're still unable to become sovereign.
But that was like a one-time vote. So this voting every few year kind of thing like solidifies it.
Well, the vote
stronger.
that they do when the Catholic Church figured out is a soul vote. So it's not a physical one. Actually, it's physical also, but it's like a life one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But they have to also have, once the person becomes aware, and I think age 13 or 14 a person used to be an adult at the time, then they had to vote again by doing First Communion or something like that. So it wasn't final.
Okay, so it still has multiples.
Yes. And then after that, I think
Plus,
there was
it's like
something
every
else.
Sundays and things like
Yeah,
that. You go
yeah.
back there
Yeah,
and then you
they
give
do.
them money or something, or tithings or
Yeah.
communion, or I
Yeah.
mean, it's like a vote every week.
Yeah. So it's not like it's done forever, but that was the idea.
I get it. So
But yeah, they
since
have to
that
do it
stopped
over and
working,
over.
they had to do a different thing.
Well,
Or they tried a
that
different
did
thing.
not stop working. That's another way of voting, right? It's another way of giving away your power, but to a different organization. The organization of the soul. They take care of souls, right?
Okay.
But this one, the electoral process, this is like your life, daily life, where you live, where you work, how much you get paid, how much you pay for gas, all the things that affect you. That's the democratic process is you signing away your decision-making process, your sovereign process to another person. You may or may not have put a tick on a piece of paper and given away your power for the next few years because there was an election in the USA recently.
Big one.
If you did, then I would suggest you find a way to mystically, energetically take that power back to a ceremony or something. But that ceremony won't work if you're convinced that the person you chose to give your power away to is a good person that you want your power to go to. Nor will it work if you have any thoughts that the democratic process is real or good. The true nature of that process is not hard to find. It is well delineated in the laws that dictate their existence. A little bit of research will show you the truth behind what the system is designed for. And it's not to benefit the population of your country or the world. What do you say about that?
I say just great. Now what do we do?
Now what do we do?
So I suppose the now what we do is, it's going to be interesting to see what our esteemed panel have to say, because they've been raised at a different age than we were. And I don't know if they went to school and you have to stand in front of the flag and pledge your allegiance every morning. Mm-hmm. I think they stopped having that.
I don't think so. I don't think they stopped.
I think they have.
We don't know.
And I don't know what they've been trained to think about elections, Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see what their
views are.
What their views are on voting and get out the vote and how important.
What their mystical experiences have been.
Or their mystical experiences with that are. Mm-hmm. I know it's like there's one thing I know when I vote for the tribal council, mm-hmm. then it almost is one of those, be careful if you ask me to vote for you, because you're not going to win if I vote for you. So I don't know what that is, some kind of a funny little, I don't know why. It's like, be careful what you ask for, because I might just vote for you. That's not going to help. But I know when I do vote, even though usually not even usually, just every time I do vote, that person loses, I kind of have the feeling that I can't really have anything to say about what happens now, because I already agreed. Yes. You guys are going to do whatever you're going to do. And
I've heard you say that. Yeah, I've heard you say that.
Right.
Like, Larry, you should go over to the council meeting and suggest X, Y, and Z because that's better than X, this other thing. Yeah. And I said, no, I can't. Nothing ever happens. No, they're not going to listen. And I don't have a say, because energetically, you don't.
Yeah, I gave my say away.
Mm-hmm. To the other person. But the time that you didn't vote, you went in and you did say...
I did say, and it did change things.
It did change things, yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's quite amazing.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So there is that to it. Now, oftentimes we will listen to this information and we'll say, yeah, that's all well, fine and dandy, but I gotta fill up my gas tank, and if I vote for the wrong person, I'm going to be broke. Or whatever, line that you have. There won't be no more elections if I vote for the wrong person. It's important. All of these things are so important. All of the levers that they're used to get you to give your power away, you will fall for one of them if you pay attention to that, right? If you become engaged and you're fear-based, it's basically all fear-based stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not usually go vote for this person because it's going to be so awesome. We're going to have a great time. No, it's like, if you don't, it's really going to be bad. Yeah. That's generally
because it's a fear-based and power, where this paradigm construct.
Right. And
That
so,
should be with the hints. I mean, that should have made you wise thinking towards the election law.
but it feels like you can't do anything about it because you're like using, they say like, well, you're using the roads, you're engaged in the systems and your banks and taxes, you pay your taxes, all these things, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, the one thing you don't do is vote, but you do everything but that. So how real is that? Mm-hmm. Does it really make a difference if you don't vote versus if you do? And it does make a mystical and energetic difference.
To your own life.
It does.
100%.
100%.
Yes. Now, with regards to the system and changing the system, there's lots of laws that are being broken right now with regards to the electoral process.
Right. It's
not even legal anymore.
It's so against the law. It's like, so what did that stop them?
Never. So one of the things is that for the whole process to be legal, they need a minimum amount of voters to vote in a country.
To have a mandate, in a sense.
No, to have
a legal
authority. Yeah, they need a minimum amount of people to vote, to engage in that process. And if they don't have that percentage, then the whole thing is illegal. Now, I don't know if it's true because I haven't fact-checked this, but apparently for the last 2 or 3 times, that legal requirement hasn't been met. The percentage of voters was too low. But it didn't matter because they continue with the telenovela. As long as nobody notices or complains about it, or even if they complain about it and take it to court, nobody cares because this is a system created to rule the people who want to choose the dark light side of the paradigm, not the light side. So it's effective for them. And even the fact that it's illegal, an illegal act, fits really nicely into that illegal or like power over others paradigm because, it's like all the
little cherry on the top.
Yeah. Yeah. So with regards to how do we do things then?
Yeah. So
if enough people, once we have a majority of the individuals on the planet who have chosen light, these things evolve organically. It's like the people who are born to bring these new systems in are born into the collective because the collective needs them to bring about that change. You might be one of those people. You might have great ideas and systems and methodologies. There is a system that actually works in a high frequency way. It's called the consensus system. Yeah. And it's different to the democratic system. It's not a bully rule, or a popular vote.
It's not the 2 wolves and a lamb voting for what's for lunch.
Yeah.
It's not one of those.
It's not one of those. So we do have already invented systems that work really, really well in a high frequency way. I would say that if you did vote and this information resonates with you, you can see that energetically. You can feel that difference. You can do a ceremony and you can figure it out what kind of ceremony to do to break that agreement and pull your power back. There's lots of information out there that you can use and really process that energy or those programs that have told you have to stand up when the national anthem comes along and put your hand on your chest, and also I have to vote because it makes a difference. It doesn't. You vote. The only difference it does is that you give your power away to another person or organization to decide things for you. That's it.
Okay, well, I think you've. I agree. It doesn't make it easy to delete 40 or 50 years worth of ingrained psychological programming, right? You've been programmed.
Yeah.
I mean, but it does make sense. And for me, like I said, the easiest way to reconcile this thought process is think myself, how many people do I want to take power from? I mean, just regular people. I'm not talking about the guy running down the street with a knife chopping people up. I'm talking about regular people, like that neighbor and that neighbor and that neighbor and that neighbor,
your brother,
and that neighbor,
your
and
sister,
that neighbor,
your
and that
mom,
neighbor,
your dad,
my whole village, my city, my state. How many of those people's power do I want to just have?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you say it that way, you understand what we're talking about. Because you probably say like, geez, none of them. You guys keep your power.
Yes.
So that instantly disqualifies you from winning an election.
Yeah.
Which should tell you something.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about this more later.
Okay.
Like later, like in 1 minute.
Yes. On our second hour, go to driveintotheRest.com to participate in that second hour.
It also will give you the opportunity to talk to us in our after party about what you feel about this thing, you know, so you can join the conversation too. So every week we have a second hour, goes for an hour, hour and a half, sometimes two.
Yes.
And we also have an after party where you and I and the rest of the panel gather on Friday morning and we chat about what we just chatted about with you.
Yes.
So, you know, join up, check it out. See you there like in 1 second.
The other thing to remember is that, for example, in England, the population votes, but it has to be the king or queen who actually names somebody prime minister. And every year there was a dialogue in the mass media saying, when I lived there, it was a queen, will the queen accept our choice or will she reject it?